Here we are with 3.6, more work with our quadratic formula. Our objective for today is students will be able to use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. So the reason why we're spending an extra lesson on the quadratic formula is because remember, this can be where you can use a quadratic formula to solve any quadratic equation. So our quadratic formula is x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And remember, this is given on the region. So this formula is extremely useful because it allows us to solve quadratic equation whether they're prime or factorable. Our first example say, consider this function f of x is equal to x squared minus 4x minus 36. Algebraically determine the x-intercepts. Using the quadratic formula, express your answer in the nearest hundreds. So let's bring this down. So using this, I want to find my a, b, and c. My a is 1, my b is negative 4, and my c is negative 36. I'm going to use this quadratic formula and set up my x. So x equals minus b, and I'm keeping it in parentheses, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4. A is 1, C is negative 36. Oops. And all of this go over 2A. Oh, and that A is actually 1. So I want to simplify these here. This becomes x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of, and I want to put this in the calculator just as is, parentheses negative 4 square minus 4 parentheses 1 parentheses negative 36, and tell me what you get. Yep, you're correct. You should have gotten 160, and then this goes over 2 times 1 is 2. Now that you have this, remember, we can find, what did we ask for? Simplest? No, we're asked for nearest 100. So that means I need to round this to 2 decimal places. So remember, when I have this, I need to split this up. So I can get 4 plus square root of 160 over 2, or 4 minus square root of 160 over 2. When I work this out and plug this into your calculator, you will get this as 8.32 because I'm rounding to 2 decimal places. And then 4 minus square root of 160, you will end up getting negative 4.32. And these are the roots, or your x-axis, where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Okay? 2 says, use your calculator to sketch this graph. Label the x-intercepts on the graph. So I gave you this graph. If you notice, I gave you a layout, meaning you should set the y to 50, 20, negative 50, and negative 20. So get your calculators out and we shall start working on plotting this. So I will wait for you to get your calculator out. So here's my calculator, and I want to go to graph. Hit enter, and I want to enter. It's x squared minus 4x minus 36. If I hit enter, I see that the x-intercept, but I don't see the entire graph to sketch it. So what I want to do is go to Menu, I want to go to Table, and I want to go to Window Settings. So I told you the x minimum should be -20, +20, this should be 50, and -50, and those are the layouts I gave you. So you have to make sure that the window settings is set correctly. Once you did that, it says, oh, sorry, -50, then +50. There you go. So -20, 20 should be auto, -50, 50, and then auto. You hit OK, and this is the graph that you're going to sketch. How do you know these points that where it crosses the x-axis? You go to Menu, Analyze Graph, no, I'm sorry, Trace, Graph Trace, and then just move your arrow up and down until you see it says 0, -4.32, and on the opposite side it has 8.32, which is our roots that we have here. So your graph should look something like this, right over here. Okay, I want you to sketch that onto your paper. So this is my sketch, which is something that similar to what you should have. I just move everything over, okay? And notice it says label your x-intercept, so I just wanted to make sure that I label it, which was those points that I showed you on the graph. Which of the following sets represents the x-intercept of y equals 3x squared minus 19x plus 6? And this is a Regents question. So in this case, you will have to use your quadratic formula. Okay? Use your quadratic formula from all the way up here. Plug in my a, b, and c. And you should have something like this. So I make my equation equal to 0. Use my quadratic formula just to write it out here. In this case, my a is 3, my b is -19, and my c is 6. So I use this into my quadratic formula, and I'm going to be left with 19 plus or minus the square root of 289, which we all know is 13. And then how did I end up getting these answer? Remember, from this, which is a step I didn't include, but from this here, let's get a different color. Oopsie. From here, all I did was branch it out. I have x is equal to 19 plus 17 over 6. And then I have x is equal to 19 minus 17 over 6. And then I work it out and it ends up to be x is equal to 1/3 or x is equal to 6, which is choice number 4. Okay? The really good thing is with the quadratic formula, it always works. Oh, next, let's see, we have some examples, and again, you don't need to memorize this formula, it's on the region. So, using the quadratic formula, I want to go ahead and solve this. So, first thing, is this in the form? Has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So, it's not in the form, so what I want to do is take away x on both sides. This is cancel. I'm left with 2x squared minus x minus 36 equals to 0. Now that I have this, what do? My a is equal to 2, my b is equal to -1. Remember that invisible 1 right here. C is equal to -36. So what I want to do is plug in this into my formula. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of this over 2 times 2. So, just like we've been doing, x is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of something over 2 times 2 is 4. So I want to calculate what this works out to be. So I'm going to put only this highlighted section, only this that I highlight, not the radical sign, okay? Only this that I highlight. What is that equal to? So get your calculators out. Alrighty, so once you plug that into your calculator, you should get 289. This will lead me to x is equal to 1 plus or minus. What's the square root of 289? Plus or minus 17 over 4. Now that you have this, remember we just need to get our two answers. So our two answer will be x is equal to 1 plus 17 over 4, or x is equal to 1 minus 17 over 4. This becomes x is equal to 18 over 4. You can simplify. X is equal to negative 16 over 4, which is the same as negative 4. That's my final answer. Okay, so let's work on number 2. So number 2, is it in our form, our quadratic form, which is all the way up here? Is it in this form? Let's look again. It's not, so I'm going to make it in that form. 9n squared minus 7n minus 4 equals to 0. My a is 9. My b is negative 7. My c is negative 4. So I want to go ahead and plug that into my formula, which becomes n. It won't be x anymore because my variable is n. N is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All of this over 2a, which is, this case, is 9. This becomes n equals 7 plus or minus the square root of some number over 2 times 9 is 18. So again, what I want you to do is just put in this same exact way it is with the parentheses and everything. Not the square root sign, just this. And tell me what you got. So you should have gotten 193. And again, this is your final answer, unless they tell you to simplify in decimal, because 193 cannot be broken down into a perfect square, so we just leave it as is. So that's our very short video for today. Go ahead and continue working on those quadratic formula. Oh, before I let you go, there's one thing that you need to remember while you're doing your practice, okay? Here you go.
The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all